Hello and welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name's Carl King and today you join me in a game of Lands of Galzyr or Galzyr, depending on how you wish to pronounce it. I'm just sort of starting off in this adventure game. It's a storytelling adventure game. If you've played similar things to this, you may have tried things like Sleeping Gods or the Adventures of Robin Hood. Those sorts of games where there is a story sort of narrative throughout the game and you are sort of directed to take certain decisions and or outcomes will determine where you go or what you do in the game. And it's a bit like also with some of the old fighting fantasy books where you roll the dice, you go to a place, you have something happen to you or with you, whether you're on your own or with a party, and you can play this game sort of 1 to 4 players. So I'm currently in the middle of a solo game and I'm playing just one character in this solo game, but you can choose any of those characters. I assume you could play all 4 if you wish. Although I think that might be a little difficult, but as I say, you can play 1 to 4 people in this, and you can play sort of co-op or competitively. And the game is produced by Snowdale Design and is a game by Sami, Laakso and Seppo Kuukasjarvi. Hopefully I've not mispronounced those too badly. But as I say, as you can see, you join me at the sort of fairly startish of a game. I've played sort of about 3 or 4 turns so far, and I've sort of moved around the board a little bit, done some adventuring, and basically, as I say, you use an app, so it's an app-based game. And depending on where you are, what card numbers, what they tell you to do, where they tell you to go, you'll pick up quests, you'll encounter different creatures, because you're playing a creature within the game. You're not playing a sort of human or an orc or an elf or anything like that. You're playing a creature, so it's an anthropomorphic creature, so a creature with sort of human characteristics and capabilities. And as I say, you will travel around the board and sort of the world stroke land of Galzyr, and from there your sort of story unfolds depending on which actions you take. Sometimes there'll be 1, sometimes there'll be 2 or more actions at a specific point or place on the map. So I'll do a sort of flyby around in a bit, but at the minute you're just looking at the sort of overview of the map. And on the map we have sort of cards. These cards are put down either on the summer or winter face of the card, and then you will sort of move around the board, as I say, and you will do certain actions and you will encounter different things. You will find treasure, you'll maybe take on jobs or quests or adventures, and eventually your whole experience will end, and you may well want to start again or play a sort of 2, 3 or 4 player game if you've started this off as a solo campaign, as I have. So how does the game work? So basically a round overview is an adventure phase. So each player takes 1 turn in clockwise order, and that is that you can travel and move your figure up to 2 spaces, and then you resolve a scene from the Book of Adventures, which is obviously the web-based app. And as I say, all of these scenes are governed by numbers. So as you can see here, each card has a set of numbers on, and each of those numbers will sort of get you to a different point in that story. Obviously if you play again, all of the cards are going to be the same, the numbers will be the same, but you may arrive at those numbers in a different order, and depending on what character you're playing, you may never cross paths with some creatures or things or adventures and quests that you did using a previous one, or you may come across some of them. It literally depends on what you do, where you go, and also what decisions you take, because there will be different decisions that you can take at each point of that story. And then you will start to roll dice, and depending on the successes or not, you will then move on to a different aspect or part of the story. So if you get more or less successes on the dice rolls, then you will go off in a different direction or take a different path, and your story will unfold differently each time. So I can see that there was a lot of replayability here for players, and as I say, you can play from 1 to 4 players, and you could have a game going on each sort of with different people. The one thing I'm not sure about, and doesn't really say very clearly in the book, it does tell you how to sort of save a game, but I can't see how on the app you save a game at a specific point, and I'm not sure that that's possible. So I think what you need to do is complete an adventure or complete a session, and then what you do is you take all of your cards, which will give you all of your possessions, anything that you've picked up along the way, your quests, or you can have companions join you. Even if you're on a solo mission, there are companions in the game that will join your party of 1 to 4 players. So you pack away and you save all of these in your behind a sort of card tray system with your character name on it, and then next time you come to start again, you will begin a new game as such, but your new game will start from what you have saved the previous game, unless obviously you have completely finished the campaign stroke adventure that you were on, and then you will start a whole new campaign or game from the very start, because there are starting points and starting cards that each character is given. Some start on the board, some don't, and then depending on what actions and decisions you take, it will tell you where to start on the board. Instead of having a card that tells you that, the app will instruct you the whole way through your adventure. So that's quite good. Before I played this, I wasn't really too much of a fan of app-based games, but this has slightly changed my mind. This actually works very well and sort of integrates with the player and gives you that added bonus, especially if you're playing solo, that you're being helped along the way. You don't have to think about those decisions and sort of, oh, roll a dice, or will I go this way, will I go that way. The dice rolls and your decisions are not so much done for you, but they are sort of triggered by some of your dice rolling and your successes, and then the app will move you on in the game, and you can even come back to places that you've been to before and potentially revisit things if you've not had a success there previously. You might go back there and it might happen again. It just depends on the app and how that app works and integrates within your storyline. So as I say, you've got the board, you've got your character, and you've got a lot of other items. So we'll have a bit of a fly around here. So here you can see my player board, and I'm using Boomer or Boomer, and these are the cards that so far I've picked up. So you can see here that I've got a piece of footwear, some hiking boots and some glasses, and they give you certain benefits and help you out in certain instances during the game. You also get some cards which you can use in the game. Some you can only use once and then they're discarded, but as you go along in the app, it will actually tell you that you need to discard a card at certain points, and you simply put it back in the deck. Here you can see I've got my tablet set up, but you can put this on phones, you can put it on laptops, and I've downloaded this, and it literally just sort of opens up and you restart a new game each time. So at the minute you can see that we are on a storyline 0023. I won't press anything from here because obviously this is where I am at the moment in the game itself, so I don't want to give out too many spoilers, but it depends here whether you want to participate in the battle or you want to watch from the stands, and you press that and it then tells you something else, or will direct you to do something, maybe take more cards, maybe take a dice check. And then obviously there are things like notice boards, so you get so many cards. You can only have 3 cards, I believe, on a notice board at any one point. So you've got these cards, these little things here are quest tokens, they go out on the board. And also you've got this little pile of plastic things here, and basically they go onto your board. So we'll bring that up and show you a bit better. So this is his board. So you start, everyone starts with 10 gold, and at the start you can see that it tells you to take 000 from the card library. That's what that symbol means. Here is your little sort of skill sort of and asset tracker. So each one of these little pips can be put in and or removed and exchanged for others at certain times during the game. So at the minute I've got 2 yellow, a red and a pink, I think that is. Excuse it if it's different, but I do suffer from a bit of colour blindness, so but it's not really a problem because the dice will show you as well. They're very clear. We've got an event deck there, which is this card deck here, so I again won't show too many spoilers by turning those over, because certain ones of these come out and you sort of turn those over at certain points in the game. Here we have a look at the dice that you get within the game. So these black ones are your basic dice, and they have one of each symbol represented in the game, which is basically the same symbols as on here. So there's one of each of these symbols, and each of these symbols mean something, which I'll just run through in a second. And then we have the other coloured dice in this tray. So if I was doing a check on dice, you would take your 5 black dice, that's your starting pool, and if I was doing a dice roll that showed that I could use yellow, I could then remove 2 of these black ones, replace them with the 2 yellows, because they have more symbols. There you can see the books, you've got like the swords and like the sort of almost like a double tent there. So there's 2 of each of there, whereas there would only been 1 of each of them on the previous dice. But obviously that means that because there's 2 of each of 3 on there, there aren't any of 3 of the symbols. But this particular check means that you're looking for a specific set of symbols that are more prevalent on the yellow dice. So you would then pick those dice, you would roll them, and there you would see that we've got 3 successes in books, 1 sword and 1 eye. So as I say, this is how you get your successes. So if we were looking for books as a success rate, then obviously when you click onto your app, as I said over here, it will say, did you get 0, 1 to 2 or 3 plus successes on the dice? You would then press that, and that would take you to a different part of the story. And depending on how many successes or not, you might then find something, you might get assisted by somebody else, or it might give you a piece of information, finding a piece of treasure or a map or something. If you get no successes, then obviously it's going to say you haven't been successful. So it could be like picking a lock in a chest, or trying to get out of prison or jail cell, or get into a house through a locked door. So all of these things are done by these dice checks, and they are done by the different colours. So depending on how many pips of the colour you have on your player board, that then determines how many of those dice you swap out from that basic 5 dice check, and then you roll them. You can do a re-roll, but you have to re-roll all of the dice. You can't just re-roll the ones that weren't successes. So if I had 2 successes but thought, oh, I would really like to see if I could get 3+, I'd have to pick them all up, and then obviously in the next dice roll you may get more, you may get less, or you may get none at all. So here we have the library, and this is where all the cards are stored. As you can see, they're in numbered order from 0 to over 300. Now there are certain ones of these where there are multiples of the card, as in at least 4, because each player could potentially have one of each of those cards, but that's not the case for every card in the game. But there are some in there that are multiple, which will be available for every player to have one. And then in here we have the character sort of decks. So these are the cards that each of the sort of players would get at the start of the game, and then you have a global sort of saving pool at the back of those, and it again tells you in the app where to store these, where to send them back to. You might have to put them back into the main library, you may have to put them back behind your character, or you may have to put them back in behind the sort of global save deck, and sometimes you would literally stick them to the back of the box and they would be discarded because some of them are not required on the board at that particular point. So, and then we get little tokens here. We've got some punch boards that we took out these from when we sort of opened the game. And then you've got a calendar, so you play a set amount of turns and days for your adventure, and hopefully by then you will have achieved what you've set out to do. We'll have a bit of a fly around the board. So as you can see, as I say, there's cards for each of the main locations on the board. Each of these symbols that you can see on the path, that is a point where you will mark your moves on the game. So if you were traveling from Chabar and you wanted to move 2, you would end up in this space here potentially, or you could go the other way and come from here down to here, and then the next turn you could then move across into Serwar. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of board presence, and then on the back of this board you have the same board, and it is a winter setting because you will potentially go through different months and seasons of the year. So obviously you've got spring and summer on this side, and you've got autumn and winter on the other side. So as I say, we've got a bit of a flyby going on here. We've also got a track which measures the prestige that you get or can collect throughout the game. So that's one of the sort of things that your game tracker system will keep track of on the board. There's not much that will keep track of in the app. That's mainly just for telling you and moving you around the story, and you will do everything else either on the board or as part of your hand stroke character management. So here we have the book. This is the rule book, so we'll have a quick flick through this, as again try not to do too many spoilers. But as you can see, we've got different card decks here: item cards, companion cards, quest, adventurer, local status cards, global status cards, event cards, and the location cards, which are the ones that go out onto the board. You get 4 adventure boards similar to Boomir's, the marbled polecat. You've got 4 adventurer figures. These are all the small and large skill marks which go onto your board through the pegs. You've got the set of skill dice, and then advanced skill dice. Obviously the advanced ones are the ones in the colours that are marked out onto your player board, and you've got a regular 12-sided dice. You've got your 2 card trays and a component tray. You get some other markers for the game. So you've got a prestige token for each character. You've got timer tokens, quest tokens. You've got the day token, which goes out on the calendar. You've got a starter playing token and a souvenir token. There's no really sort of gameplay use for that. That's just a little thing that's been put into the game as a nice little extra. So then you get all of your dividers. You get a travel guide. You get an achievement sheet where you can mark off where you've been, what you've done. You get this rule book, and you get the welcoming letter. Now, the welcoming letter is something sort of pretty unique. That basically tells you how to set up your actual game itself. So it will tell you how to put things together. It will tell you how to do the dividers, where to put the cards, how to sort of set up the character boards, because they all come with these little dials that you sort of put together, and as you can see on the back here, you sort of press stud them together, and it's a little wheel that goes round and that tracks your gold. And as you can see there, that's where the markers go in to your board, which will tell you how many dice you can use as a sort of speciality roll. So then it will come on to telling you about your adventurers. So that, as I say, there are 4 in the game, and then you've got the different dice. So you've got thievery, might, survival, knowledge, communication and perception. So each of those coloured dice represent something different, and depending on what you're doing, so thievery, you might, as I say, be trying to unlock a locked chest or get in a door. You've got might, which is sort of strength and those sorts of roles. Survival is you persevere over obstacles and thrive outdoors. Knowledge is rely on your memory and intelligence. So each of those roles will be governed by a specific coloured dice, and there are more of a certain colour than there are of others. So you've got 2 of everything apart from the red, which is the might dice, and they are the ones where you will have 4 of those. So, and then obviously in the book here it also shows you about the cards and the card trays. Again, just sort of explains where they go, what the library is, the difference between the library and the vault, and where you keep these things rather than just putting them back into the library. If you have got them at the end of a game and you're continuing that game at a later date, you'll put them behind your character sort of divider. So then it tells you about item cards and adventurer status cards, companion cards, local status cards, the global cards, and then obviously the event cards. So the event cards will come out, and as you can see here, you've got those different symbols. So that will then tell you where you are and what you press depending on what sort of area you are on the board, which is governed by that symbol. So for example, you've got Monday there, which has got a specific symbol, and then you've got a settlement, grassland, forest, hill and mountain. So if you were in a mountain region, you would obviously go to that particular story number. So as you can see, there are a lot of story numbers already stored within the app, so you will not really sort of run out of things to encounter. Here again in the rulebook we have some more information of what you do on game setup, how to put things out on the table, what goes where, what you need to hand. Then you've got your book of adventures, which is obviously your app. It tells you how to and what happens in a round. So you've got your adventure phase, then you've got travel, you've got the story, which is basically check if there are any cards available for you. If you have mandatory scenes marked with a lightning bolt, if yes, you must choose one of them. And then you've got things like your quest cards, your companion cards, location, status and events. And then you've got reading a scene, so it will actually explain in this book how you read a scene, what you do, what sort of skill check you need, whether it's, you can pick easy, medium or difficult, depending on what sort of rewards you potentially want to have as an outcome. And then it runs through how to do your skill checks. So as I say, I'm just sort of giving you a bit of a flyby with this, just so it gives you an overview and a bit of a taster of what you want to do. So if there are any scenes that have got a handshake icon, you can resolve those with a partner if you have a partner in the game. But obviously if you're playing solo, you may not have one, but you may come across a companion. And then obviously you've got your calendar phase. This is where you move the day token on the board around to the next day, so that will then start a new set of encounters and turns. You've got different game end instances stroke days depending on how many players. So if you had 4 players, you'd only play a 5-day or 5-round game. Then you've got competitive game mode and solo and cooperative game mode. Then, as I say, you've got all of the instructions on how to save the game, so that's very handy. But as I say, I've not found out yet if possible, and it doesn't look possible, to restart a game if you had to sort of abandon a game before you'd finished it. I think that if the sort of rules people could look into that, that might be a good addition, where you could sort of save your progress where you are, but that may be too difficult depending on the involvement, because as I say, there is so much going on in the background in that app, and so many things that you can or can't do, that maybe saving it was too much of an issue. So just have to wait and see. So you can reset the game, you can reset individual characters, and then obviously you can reset the whole game, and it tells you how to do that. And that's basically like taking everything off boards, putting all the cards back in a certain order in numerical and also areas of the library and things, and then storing your game away. And once again, on the back we have what I think should be pretty standard for anybody if you've got a game certainly of this ilk, is a page that gives you an overview of all of the icons and certain things you do during the game. So it tells you about abandoning a quest, delaying a timed effect, discarding a card, to hasten movement, so your movement never goes below 0. And then you've got all the iconography, so you've got there, you can see all of the different colours of dice, and that is the main symbol on each of those dice that you can see there. So depending on which ability check you need, if you've got any of those pips on your board, you can swap out those black dice for the coloured ones. Then it tells you about the card types, it tells you about the terrain that you see on the map in those little circles, and it tells you about all of the adventurers, and some of those are only available, as you can see, the ones marked with the stars at the bottom, they're only available in the expansion. And then you've got scene related things, so the scene number there you can see is 1. So obviously, as I say, this will be shown to you and told to you on the card. You either find that one in the list, or you can put the number in, just press enter, and it'll go straight to that scene, and you carry on your story. So as I say, this is Lands of Galzyr by Snowdale Designs. They were kind enough to send me this game. I paid for the carriage and a bit of the game, and they sent it to me very nicely to do this review, but also obviously to play through the campaign. As I say, so far I'm sort of starting off in the game, and we'll continue once I finish with this video. And yeah, on my initial thoughts so far, having played a few rounds, the storyline and the game itself is very good. One of the better ones of this type of game that I've played. I've played the Robin Hood, I've played Sleeping Gods, And yeah, this is up there with them as far as I'm concerned. This is probably not as in-depth or as brutal as Sleeping God, so if you're looking for something a bit less challenging and a bit more forgiving, then maybe try this out, because I think you could get this and play this with certainly with younger gamers, certainly with the fact that it's as I say, animal based heroes in the game, because obviously with Sleeping Gods it can get quite violent with all of the monsters. Might be a bit scary for some of the younger gamers if you have them in your family, but with this, you know, the characters in the game are obviously, as I say, you know, they're all sort of animal based characters, and here are the other character boards. So you've got Asala, the river kingfisher, you've got Moor, the frilled lizard, and we have Keridai, the northern banded newt. So each of those has got their own sort of wooden meeple figure, and they're all very nicely done. As you can see here, we've got the one for my character, so I'll just sort of move that off the board, and we've got the others here in little bags. So as you can see, and the kingfisher. So as I say, you've got these nice little characters, and there are, as I say, by the looks of things, a couple more in an expansion to come out, which I don't have any details about a release date on that as such at the moment, but if you're already got this game or are thinking of purchasing it, excuse me, keep an eye out for that, as hopefully that will be coming out in the not too distant future. This game, I believe, went through a crowdfunding thing, and it is sort of currently in the last throes of being fulfilled to people around the world in the areas where they could get it. So as I say, keep an eye out for Lands of Galzyr at your local game store, or if you want to, you can order direct from Snowdale Designs. They are very good. Their customer service was excellent. They sent me things that I could sort of keep track of the parcel, and it arrived within 2 or 3 working days from the time that I got told it was dispatched. So yes, all being all, this is a game I think I'm going to enjoy finishing off and playing through, and then potentially once I've done that, which is what I like to try and do with these things, certainly if they have a solo mode, is try this myself first, and then introduce it to my gaming group, and then get their thoughts on that as well. So yes, Lands of Galzyr. I'll also be putting up a written review of this for Everything Board Games magazine in the coming few weeks, so if you are a subscriber to that, have a look out for that. But you can go onto YouTube and check out my channel, where I've got other videos like this, where I've done some unboxings and some reviews, some playthroughs of things like Dwellings of Eldervale. So they're all building up, and hopefully we'll get back to this and give you a bit of an update at the end of the game about how it went. But until then, and until we do another one of these, it's bye for now.